On the coast of the Adriatic is the city of Dubrovnik, settled originally in the 7th century and built to withstand sieges from land and sea. A World Heritage Site, this beautiful city was almost destroyed. In 1991, following the fall of the Soviet Union and the breakup of Yugoslavia, the various ethnic groups of the country wanted to split apart, and wars broke out between them. The Serbs inland and the Croats on the coast fought for numerous reasons, going back many years. The city was bombed continuously by land, sea, and air. Most of the buildings were hit and hundreds of lives lost. Croatia was able to gain its independence, but the toll on Dubrovnik was immense. But gradually the buildings were repaired, and slowly the world began to return to visit this unique treasure box of a city. Little did anyone know there was a war coming, a war between humans and the COVID virus. The world shut down and siege as the war raged on. In 2021, 1 week after the world reopened due to COVID, we were at the San Francisco airport and virtually nobody there. We're on our way to Croatia during a unique period in time. We arrived in Croatia and found the same thing. We had a connection through Zagreb. Nobody was there. We found the airports absolutely deserted and a more eerie feeling took over. We were the only guests in the hotel and were treated like new arriving dignitaries.
Only one in the old-time rooftop restaurant. They took all the Mediterranean herbs.
He was such a gracious host. We looked out over the city, not knowing that the red roofs were the ones that had been reconstructed and the old brown ones were from the pre-war period. Adrian enjoys the view while we enjoy our breakfast. The city took on an almost eerie silence as we cast our eyes out over the city. It was so beautiful, one of the most incredible medieval cities I'd ever seen, and it was all ours. Nobody was there. As we made our way through the city, all the historic monuments were there for us to explore on our own, as if it was a private tour of the entire medieval town. There was nothing between us and these historic buildings. It was an experience devoid of any interference. We were able to luxuriate in all of their splendidness without any intrusions, any noise, or any worry about having to move along due to the crowds behind us. It was such a unique experience to be in one of the most touristed places in the world with nobody there but us and a few locals. The streets were empty. It was almost like a movie set. Thankfulness and serenity enveloped us. We found the War Memorial Museum. As we toured it, we became aware of the brutal facts of the war. The gravity of the war and its solemn atmosphere were brought to home. The horrors of the war were brought into focus as we viewed the victims of the war. This fountain outside the walls shows Dubrovnik's maritime history by including dolphins. This shows some of the destruction that has not been repaired from the war. An orange tree in somebody's backyard shows a bit of greenery. The walls circumnavigate the entire city. It has incredible views going out over the Adriatic. We walked the walls in isolation and looked down. Around every bend, there are scenes never to be forgotten. Even Adrian, who never takes a photo, stops to take one of this incredible view. We began to realize what a magical experience this was to view the city as a private guest. The walls built along the steep cliffs were dramatic and the ocean views were spectacular. The futility of this cannon, which guarded the city so well, will become apparent in the coming war. The ramparts of the city were built so well that even modern bombardment shells would bounce off. As this became apparent, they decided to change their strategy and rain shells upon the houses. We are outside the walls of the city, enjoying one of the incredible coves. The views from outside the city put its defensive structures in perspective. We take a cable car up the hill, and it gives us a beautiful view of the city. It also shows its vulnerability to aerial attack. The only people that we saw were people out walking their dogs or taking their evening stroll. The swallows also cast an atmosphere of isolation as they darted above in the evening sky. The next day, we are greeted again by an isolated main street, other than a baby in a carriage. Midday brought a few locals out. At the domed well, we saw a Franciscan priest feeding the pigeons, who we later met inside the monastery. The city is home to a beautiful Franciscan monastery that was built in 1317 and is home to the third oldest pharmacy in the world. This is where we have our encounter with the Franciscan monk.
Ne znam da li samo taj dan, ali preko 50 granata je pogodilo samostan, a taj dan...
Kamena plastika u Dominikanskom samostanu, Franjevačkog, oprosti.
Golem stablo i više nema stabla. Nigdje nema nikakva traga od njega. Ja ne znam gdje je to stablo. Više ga nema. Biblioteka koja spada među najvažnije na području današnje Jugoslavije na južnoj Evropi, u kojoj se čuvaju dokumenti svih naroda i kultura. Mi smo u jednom momentu pomislili da gori, jer ljudi vide dim, dižaju se strahoviti dim odavde, 70.000 knjiga, od kojih je 200 nadula, 13.000 propisa i čuda, ne znam šta ću.
We later find out that this courtyard was obliterated during the war, and the orange tree that we are looking at has now been replanted. The priest who was feeding pigeons earlier, we met inside the monastery. He took a liking to us and invited us into the inner sanctum. We did not share a common language, but the hospitality was universal. He showed us some books. We were able to share some food and some of their local home-brewed liquor, and we had a great time. It was a wonderful time, and I will remember it due to his warmth and generosity and in inviting us in to where few other people are allowed. I enjoyed wandering the deserted streets. came upon a woman who was surprised to see a tourist and invited me to sit down with her and have tea and cookies. Although she did not speak any English, we enjoyed our conversation together after the long COVID shutdown.
Oh. Is this like a special thing you have here? Special? Yeah.
I am.
You are special. We all are special, yeah.
Do you have coffee?
Due to COVID, the hand sanitizer was of course present. She had not seen a tourist for well over 2 years, and I think that we were a welcome surprise. This shows the interior of a house nearby.
Sam i sa vaše Slavoniju svu, evo žurim te.
Life was starting to return to normal, and these two girls were doing their homework after school in these two round windows. Dubrovnik is once again open to all, which some feel is a mixed blessing. A wall of tourists wash up against the ancient walls every day and come inside to see the sights. Cathedral steps are quite famous and have been shown in many films. We were able to enjoy them in a very calm manner. One of the main entrances to the city was also deserted. This iconic street will perhaps never be viewed in this manner again. In our way, we were scouts for an invading army. The hotels and restaurants are full again. The apartments are sublet for the summer as locals take their own vacations, seeing the sights elsewhere. The city has stood for centuries, and the people of the 7th century had no idea they would be fighting bombs and viruses. But the people live their lives looking for daily joy, marrying, singing, and looking proudly towards the future.
So